After learning a bit more about how deprived doctors are of some of these skills and just managing themselves and actually like self-care, just taking care of themselves, we learned a lot more as students, and it's been highlighted a lot more recently now compared to old school years and old school doctors, that taking care of yourself and preserving yourself is really, really important, because if you're not sorted, then how can you sort other people out?
Let's go through what happens when you've entered into medical school. Okay, so run me through your everyday life, Niel, from second year through to where you are now, what it looks like.
Yeah, well, so we're at the end of 2019. I just finished my third year, and so speaking specifically from the University of Auckland Med School, we've got second and third year, which is your preclinical years, and then 4, 5, and 6, which is clinicals, which are very, very different as it is. And I don't know what to expect from clinicals. You probably expect.
Yeah, I can talk about that a lot. Tell me about the preclinical side.
Yeah, well,
what does preclinical mean?
Preclinical.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'd say before I continue on, I want to firstly add that actually there's so much to talk about with this really as well. I walked in with the mentality that now I'm safe, now you've passed that barrier and now you're in.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get out.
Yeah.
Now. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so understandably, after a whole year of, and for some postgrads as well, after 3 years, maybe more, of pure grind mentality, you're exhausted and all you want to do is take a break.
Yeah.
But you can't.
You can't. I think you can mentally take a break.
Yes, yeah.
That the pressure isn't there.
Right.
But the requirement grows in a way to fill it.
There's a difference between the pressure and the stress, if that makes sense. The stress is, we can define this a lot better as well, but with regards to the pressure of actually being accepted into medicine, that's gone now. Yeah. That's different. Your normal stress of keeping up with lectures, going to your labs, and maintaining your work your life outside of medicine, that's all there as well. And that's a very different sort of feeling. I will also add that your grades from preclinical years do not matter. And I wish someone told me that a little bit sooner.
I'm pretty sure I told you that actually, when you were in first year.
Okay. Well, I wish I listened. Because I don't think I went as hard as some of my other mates and stuff did. And to this day as well, a lot of my friends already know that, but they choose to work hard and get the grades that they want, which is completely fine.
Yeah.
You do you, because you have control of your own grades and your own life and everything. That's completely fine. But if that grade is ruining your life to the point where you're being it's debilitating to everyday life, then you have to address that. Yeah. And there are several more things that are going to make you a better doctor and just a better human being than working towards an A+.
Yeah, and it's just not worth it, honestly. Because you get the amount to work towards an A versus an A+
is even
is actually that's a big gap.
Right.
And really the gunners in medical school that I remember from my year and the years around me.
Might as well, yeah.
They now that they're graduated, they're mostly just wasn't the greatest way to spend that time. A lot of them are I guess a little bit disillusioned with that kind of outcomes focused grades only thing. And some of them have even quit. Some of these people that were gunning for A+, they actually quit afterwards, where that short-term outcome didn't matter anymore. And I think it's, in a way, it's kind of an easy way to measure your success without having to think about other things that potentially are more important at influencing success.
Because it's literally a test that you sit based on the work that you've done, and then you get a grade which reflects what work you've put in. Yeah. But with the bigger picture stuff that I think is more important, that we think is more important, it's more uncertain and it's less quantifiable.
It's less comfortable to think about.
Right. And I think before, we still haven't got to actually answering the question yet, but that's what I mean. I think we need to understand that before getting to all this stuff and what the everyday life of med student is, or what it should be or what it shouldn't be, we have to definitely address the fact that I think maturity and seeing the big picture is a lot more important to know how you should live.
100%. And the unfortunate thing is that people that haven't reached that point often can't appreciate that
Right.
perspective.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a little, sort of like a paradox. It's like the most important thing to understand can't be understood until it's already too late in a way. For a lot
Until you have that understanding. In the
yeah.
first- yeah.
Yeah. So
Stimulating
the
that.
mentality is different.
Yeah,
Mentality is different.
yeah.
But okay, let's assume
Again,
that
that's
the
a-
mentality is there. What does it look like?
You've got your normal lectures and stuff. Probably, previously, compared to the other degrees and stuff, you don't have several papers on different subjects going on at the same time. You've just got one paper, which is medicine, and the way we get tested is on modules. So first off, we did the musculoskeletal system, then we went on to the digestive system, and so it's a big bulk of just a module on a particular body system that we go through, which is nice. I guess the everyday, without going too much into the curriculum itself, really. You go to your lectures, spend lunchtime with each other. The cohort's all really, really small as well. Everyone knows everyone. I guess in second year lectures are in the morning, third year lectures are in the afternoon. Once you finish your lectures, it's up to you whether you want to study or not. Like going back to the previous conversation.
It's up to you whether you attend the lectures or not.
You attend the lectures or
It's
not.
up to you whether you get out of bed in the morning.
Right. Yeah. And from the previous thing that we were talking about as well, like university is literally, it's all on you. And I think that's another reason why the university also might not care as much. And that's I guess it works both ways, that because they don't care as much, people that take initiative and take their studying in their own hands will end up doing better because they actually want to be there. And university isn't for everyone. It's not necessary to have a happy and successful and purposeful life, really, first of all.
Yeah.
But aside from that, you do a bit of study later on in the day. Hopefully you exercise or do something physical.
Yep.
Keep your physical activity going. Socialize with some friends. And
So how much free time do you have?
that varies leading up to tests.
Yeah.
I think if I were a better student, I would be a lot more consistent and I'd be studying regularly and enjoying my free time more. But when we first start out, like lecture 1 or 2 compared to, up until like lecture 40 or 42, which is the day like the few days before the actual test is, no free time at all. Just pure cram, grind and stuff, which I'll add is not the best way, and I'm admitting to that. But otherwise, I think most people also do this as well, which is why you get I don't know. Since everyone's available to hang
as you
and
said, there's
everything like
natural selection.
right, there we go. It's a normal distribution curve as well of grades as well.
Yeah.
So naturally, I think you have a lot more free time when you start a module, and less so leading up later on when it comes to your actual test.
Yeah, and I guess it's just a matter of how you want to spend. You've got like as much free time as you want. Like all of your time is free time.
Right. It's hard to
really.
give an answer to that question because like sometimes you want to work, sometimes you don't want to work. If you're good, you have a proper schedule and you have a system going on for yourself.
Yeah.
But like that's what I mean. It's hard to answer these questions because it's so varied. I can think of like 5 different, I can think of like 50 different friends all doing their own different things with their own things going on. Someone owns a restaurant on one side, someone's hustling with their own student association, someone's volunteering over there.
Yep.
It's everyone's got their own lives going on behind them because they've neglected that for that first year, right? It's
I would say it's rare to find students that don't have something else that they're kind of getting into.
And I hope they do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that goes to some of the myths that are around medicine and med students, which we'll talk about later as well.
Yeah.
But that it's not a social degree that everyone's just studying, but actually, like I would say, medicine is one of the most social degrees that are out there because it's a small cohort and everyone knows that it's important to socialize.
Right.
They make an effort, so it's that very work hard, play hard mentality.
Yeah. But essentially, that's the generic day that I think I started off with. But then we have a paper called Professional Clinical Skills, and in that we learn the soft skills, where I think, I can't remember what the lecturer's name was, but she said that in med school, we spend 20% of our time learning about these professional clinical skills and 80% of our time learning about the actual like pure physiology and content of it. But in reality,
it's the
opposite.
In fact, even like it's 90% is the everything else.
Right. Like
it's
people.
Increasingly the information is just available on hand.
Right. Yeah, and it should be second nature by then anyway. That you don't need to. You're not going to spend most of your time doing that stuff.
Yeah.
But after learning a bit more about how deprived doctors are of some of these skills and just managing themselves, and actually like self-care, just taking care of themselves. We learned a lot more as students, and it's been highlighted a lot more recently now compared to old school years and old school doctors, that taking care of yourself and preserving yourself is really, really important, because if you're not sorted, then how can you sort other people out, really? And so stuff like mindfulness, meditation, reflection, journaling, just like talking with people as well about things you have going on, or things that might not be so good. Like just making sure your mental health is good throughout the 6 years of med school, and then from that point onwards is so important. So earlier this year, I had my own little morning routine where I'd bike out to Mission Bay, go to the wharf, watch the sunrise over there, do a bit of meditation, maybe read my book. And by this time, it's like, I don't know, when sunrise is, 6:37ish or something. Head back in time for my 8 a.m. lecture. Not that I actually attend it. Legit, like I will. One time I just put my headphones, walked into the theater, into lecture theater, sat next to my friends just for the like social feeling capital. Of social. You know what exactly, I mean? But I ended up just doing my own study right over there.
I used to go to lectures to catch up on sleep.
Right.
Because it was such an easy way to fall asleep.
Honestly, yeah. And that's the primary reason why I didn't go to lectures in the first place. Can't stay awake.
That's why I stopped going as well. I mean, that's actually a huge other issue in terms of like my narcolepsy, and we should have an entire episode on just how to sleep.
But once I started incorporating those messages that we got taught in second and third year, and I think that have been talked about in society generally now a lot more so, that put a bit more structure and a bit more purpose into the way I use my time. And I think that retrospectively speaking, when reflecting back on this year, especially when I properly focused on that stuff, it definitely paid off. And it helped.
And I think that trend continues. So so when you get into clinical years, when you're working, especially that free time question is actually a lot easier to answer, because your schedule is a lot more set. But because it's more set, there is more rigidity. And because there's more rigidity, there's obviously flexibility. And that means that you have to be a lot more proactive in actually taking care of yourself. Like it's kind of, sort of how that margin and room for error is a lot more, it's more open. There's more of it. There's more room for error when you're like in high school compared to uni. Right. In preclinical compared to clinical, there's more margin for error where you might not be really doing stuff to take care of yourself. And it kind of goes under the radar because you didn't need to, but the habits still need to have been formed. And those habits, if you need it in 5th or 6th year, you want to have started forming them in the 2nd and 3rd year. So that's automatic by that time. But
same thing with the jump from high school into pre-med.
You want
to start
early.
You
want to have that. So if you're sort of saying, okay, I know I've got issues with my studying system, studying skills. Like you should. Or
yesterday.
You need to be like, okay, how long does it take us for us to work through someone to get to that's not good at studying, that's only kind of scraping into an excellence or not even getting excellence, to get to a level where they're going to be consistently getting safely A+ in uni? Like, how long would that process take us normally?
2 years?
Well, like a year, with coaching,
with proper coaching.
It's a long-term sort of thing. It's not something that you can cram in like 2 weeks before, which is what most people think. It's just like a tip or a technique, like here and there, that's gonna magic bullet solve everything. But it's like, no, it's a whole complicated series of habits that need to be formed in a very specific way. It's the same with self-care and things as well. So especially when you start working, it's completely different. So after when you're into clinical years, most of your day is just, you go into hospital, you're following that team around, and you're trying to learn on the job, but it's very chaotic.
Right.
How to learn. And the hospital system is not really geared for education, it's geared for healthcare. And it's something that's really interesting if you think about it. It's one of the only industries in the world where most of the more important learning is done in the workplace. Right. Yet the workplace does not cater for the learning, like for teaching. So like the teaching is you almost feel bad for being there. Yeah, like you're not wanted almost. So the entire environment is set up in a way where you are literally assigned to a team. Yet that team, the way that you're taught is very haphazard. It completely depends on, like, there's no systemized way of teaching students. Which is weird to think about, given that the entire future generations of medical professionals rely on that system of training to gain clinical skills and acumen, and yet the educational experience you get depends almost entirely on which individual you are lucky enough to be paired with.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just it doesn't make any sense. Like, if logically speaking, there's no possible reason why that's a good idea, and why the system doesn't incorporate it. But actually, it's because the hospital management doesn't recognize the importance of it. It doesn't really make time for that. They're more worried about other things, like how to make the most money out of the healthcare system.
I mean, big question. I'm not sure if we can answer it right now, but what would be a better way?
Well, number one, like, doctors should actually be trained on how to educate properly. There's almost no real teaching on how to teach effectively in med school.
Yeah.
Right? You have clinical...
Yeah.
You know, you learn how to build rapport and gain trust, blah, blah, blah. It's very important skills.
Yeah.
But there's no way to like, if a patient doesn't know about their diabetes, do you know the like logical framework to use in order to dissect
Not
your
really.
understanding of knowledge and then distill it down into something that's simplified and teach it in an effective way? Like, these are things that every professional teacher would know, like how to do. A good teacher that has a teaching qualification, that knows how to teach with the right techniques. These are the things that they know how to do. Doctors doctors are educators is one of the most primary roles that they have.
Yeah,
to educate patients. There's no real training on it, and I think that comes through in that everyone's got their own theory of like how to teach effectively. And I've had conversations with consultants where they're like, "Oh yeah, like learning is meant to be done this way. Like, this is how it is." And like, I'm not saying anything against it, but I'm thinking like, well, actually, there is actually no real research to support that, and actually, the evidence suggests that it's not that way. It's actually the opposite. Or, the trend of like pimping, right, where you're actually in the ward round and in front of pimping, where like you're in front of a patient and the consultant will ask you a series of questions. It's called pimp. Like, you get asked, the students or junior staff get asked questions on the spot as a way to like test their knowledge and things. Right? Evidence suggests that that's an ineffective way. It's actually harmful to learning. Yet that's like bread and butter of medical education. It's like, for a field that's so evidence based, a lot of how we train other doctors, future doctors, is incredibly against the evidence. Like, when it comes to education, I really honestly feel like doctors, like anti-vaxxers level of education, like they look at the evidence and do the things that the evidence suggests is not effective. And that's like how doctors are trained, and it just doesn't really make any sense. So I think that level of training should be there. There should be a system where doctors are trained to educate better. And if you are a consultant, I mean, you should actually have training on how to manage your team on an educational level, how to teach and make sure that your student is gaining that clinical accuracy. It shouldn't be presumed, because I will tell you for a damn fact, there are some consultants out there, there are many who should never have a student under them, who would do more harm than good, where it will be better for that student to have never met that consultant and have worked in their team than otherwise. And there are going to be consultants who are oblivious to this. They think they're the man. They're used to everyone listening to them. They've always been at the pinnacle. And it's just like, look, you're a horrible teacher. Students should not be forced to tolerate being in your team just because you know how to operate really well, or just because you've got a lot of medical knowledge. Like, that translates. It's just the same as a good student doesn't make a good teacher. A good doctor doesn't make a good teacher, but it should. And I think that's a fundamental issue. Right. So anyway, we went on a bit of a tangent there, but the main, we're meant to be talking about the everyday life of a med student. So clinical years, you're in a hospital, you're trying to learn and absorb information from these teams, and you do learn because you get good individuals that you're paired with. Not every doctor is a horrible teacher, like I kind of made it out to be. There are people that are good. It's just that it's luck based a lot of the time. And the idea is that you're changing teams so often that your hit rate is going to be there. Like, of that year, you might be in a good team 50% of the time, 60% of the time if you're lucky. And in that 50 to 60% of the time where you're with a good supervisor and a good team, you learn a lot. Right. And I can definitely say that my clinical knowledge is from fourth year and above. What I learned in second and third year was like, I don't even know what I learned during that time, because everything is consolidated in fourth year, and fifth year, and your clinical years. And so rotate around different departments, getting a feel for each specialty. And in that specialty, your job is to learn that specialty. If you're in orthopedics, you learn about bones and muscles and joints.
Yeah.
If you're in general surgery, you learn about general surgery. If you're in general medicine, you learn about how to manage general medical conditions. So it's very specialty focused learning. It's very practical, and you're only learning the things that you really need to know. And I think that's an important tip as well for any clinical years that are listening, is that for yourself going into it, don't try to learn every new thing every day. Just learn just one thing every day.
Right.
That's relevant. Learn the common important things that are there. If you see someone with a rare syndrome and your consultant's like, come have a look at the syndrome that you may never see for the rest of your life, don't go home and end up studying that for an hour. It's like, he literally said you may never see it for the rest of your life. You know, it doesn't matter. Even if you learn it, you're going to forget it. And I spent a lot of time learning everything new. There is literally things that I studied in fourth year that I've never, ever had to draw on that knowledge ever again. And that's a huge waste of time. I should be learning more about things that are very important for me to have as bread and butter knowledge. And just learn those in depth, learn it well, and learn it down to the logical level where it's not just memorized. And that's a good way to learn in clinical years. So fourth and fifth years, much the same sort of thing. You just get a bit more confident. Trainee intern, TI year or final year of medical school is different because you're expected to kind of be pulling a little bit of the weight. The rule of thumb, I don't know how official it is, but 20% of the ward is meant to be managed by the trainee intern.
Oh, wow. Well, okay.
It's not always the case, and sometimes it's unsafe because some of the students are really very not good. But if you're really proactive and you're good at it, you should be really making use of that and try to be working. So you really it's going to work. And you can't really skive off early as often anymore as you could in fourth and fifth year. Because you can do that often in fourth and fifth. There's a whole time in fifth year where I decided to not go into uni for like 2 weeks just to watch Game of Thrones. And it's just like, no one knows. Like I go to a clinic in the morning and it's like, okay, I'm going to go study now. And it's like, yep, that's fine.
Oh.
And you just go. And then I just watched a lot of Game of Thrones.
Were there many others that did the same?
It's common. Yeah, it's common to just leave early, to just do whatever. And the thing is like,
because again, it's in your own hands, isn't it?
It's in your own hands. But the other thing is that it's hard to say, like, I feel like I need a break. And like, can I just not come in today because I feel like I'm getting a bit overwhelmed. I feel like I need to study. It's hard to say that because the culture is not one where that's okay. So you need to end up making all these various excuses. You just say, I'm going to go study or whatever to take those little breaks. And you might just need to take a breather and relax. But it's like, look, that's totally fine. And I used to tell my students very upfront is that like, if you need to go, just go. Like I used to say, okay, ward round's finished. You want to go home?
Yeah.
Or you want to stay? Like this is what's here for the day. It's moderate yield for you. You can stay or you can go and come back when there's a particular interesting thing. And it's up to them. And I think that level of freedom is really important to actually learn effectively as an independent adult.
Yeah.
Rather than forcing people to stay and learning something that is potentially really, like there are times where I've been at hospital and I'm just in a fourth or fifth year and it's just like, Christ, I've stopped learning like 6 hours ago. Like this is such a waste of time for me.
But you didn't want to go home.
But you can't because you can't be like, well, you can, but it's I guess it's difficult to have that maturity and mindset and perspective to be like, look, this was really useful. I think I need to go and study now, and I'll see you at the ward round tomorrow or something like that. You know, to say that is good, but it's hard to do that. So, you know, it's pretty common that students will actually make up an excuse or something to just go and you know, something like that.
From everything that you just said already, though, I said that I've been told that second and third year grades don't matter. I'm guessing fourth, fifth, and sixth year grades do matter. But in saying that, you're also quite lucky with who you get and like
it's luck dependent, but also the way that, especially like the way that Auckland does it, at least actually, the way that most medical universities actually do it is that you just get signed off and marked by your consultant and supervisor, but your supervisor might have seen you for like 6 hours for the entire run, like even less. You know, so it's not a really fair representation a lot of the time, and it's important to pass because if you fail, that usually indicates that there's a problem.
Of course,
If you pass versus if you get like a distinction, that could be totally luck based. There could be a consultant that just doesn't, out of principle, give distinctions. It means nothing. So, and like, what does make a little bit of a difference is like awards that you win, like end of year awards, like first in something, first in whatever, like
in a particular run.
Yeah, like if you get if there are various prizes, like mid school prizes that get awarded.
Okay.
You know, the top achieving clinical student, or when you graduate, you get a certain award. You know, it's like the James whatever prize for the clinically most excellent student. Like those things are good because it actually pads up a CV and it's impressive when you're like applying for a training program or something. But especially if it's really competitive. But generally speaking, the grades don't matter even in clinical years as long as you are passing. As long as you're learning, that's the important thing.
Right.
You know, as long as you're learning what you need to learn and you're passing and you're really taking the knowledge on board, not just to pass, but to really use that knowledge in an effective way for clinical practice and be a good doctor, then that's what's the most important thing. And even if you get a passing grade when your level of absorption and knowledge is at a distinction level or whatever you want to call it, that's a win. Okay. If you manage to get a distinction, but you actually just kind of went through the motions, then that's not really effective for your life. So there's no real point there. Yeah. So it's similar mentality to how grades don't matter earlier on.
Okay.
Yeah. And then you will graduate and start working. And then you work as a doctor. And then I think we'll talk about life of a doctor in a separate discussion as well.
Yeah. I'll probably add before that with the point of grades specifically.
Wait, just repeat that line again because I sniffed like really loud.
I'll probably just add with the point of grades specifically. If you have things that you're gunning for outside of uni, an external scholarship or a conference that you want to be there for, or an internship, for example, overseas, they might look at your GPA and stuff.
Grades,
and so in that way, that is important. But that's not going to be something that applies to every single student. I just know that from personal experience.
Yeah, and it also doesn't supersede like self-care.
Yes, no, ever.
Yeah, ever.
If your self-care is good enough as well, though, you should have the correct systems and stuff to achieve those grades anyway.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it does matter. If you're doing research or conferences or, applying for things, then they will look at the grades. And it is important for those things. Whether that's worth it is an individual decision to make. And a lot of people like pre-med will be like, yeah, that's worth it. I'm going to do that.
yeah.
And
I was in that position as well. Yeah.
Most of the people in med are just like, that's
Nah.
So there's, something to think about if you're listening to this and you're really gunning for it, but you're not in med school yet.
Yeah.
Think about how open-minded you might really be.
Thanks for tuning in to Subcut. If you guys have any suggestions for content, please make sure you send it through.
You can get in touch and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or find us on our website at jttmed.com/subcut.
Subcut is a podcast brought to you by JTT. If you or anyone you know is interested in a career in medicine, make sure to get in touch and check us out at jttmed.com.